Question 1381. In 1381, Wat Tyler led the Peasants Revolt. Do you think it's possible to have an equivalent workers' revolt in a Western country today?
Easily.
You think? You don't think people are too comfortable?
I think it's a little harder in a Western sort of democracy than it would be in, say, a dictatorship. That's generally where they tend to happen. But I think it is very plausible that it could happen. It's
B?
I don't think it will ever happen in a large Western democracy. I cannot imagine the majority of workers being so upset that they're going to physically take charge and revolt. They're too satisfied with their flat screen TV and their 2 SUVs and their air conditioning and stuff. They're so complacent and apathetic. I just don't see it happening.
That's pretty much what I was going to say. You just said it better than I would. Yeah, no, I agree. People will sit here and be armchair warriors all day, but they won't. And I'm not going to say I do, but then again, I don't say I'm going to go protest and then don't do it. I just don't. Yeah. I know I'm not going to do it. I know I'm too lazy.
Until it affects you personally, he will do it, and it affects a lot of people personally. So this is why we can end up having things like general strikes and whatever. Of course, so, I mean, I would never trust them in union leaders to lead a revolt because they're kind of they're not revolutionaries in their own right. So,
I should tell you my stories later on about going into contact with unions. I was very disturbed.
It just depends on the job.
Seraphim says yes. God then says nurses and teachers go on strike for a change in toilet paper. No. Godless Granny says we had one at the Capitol last week. That wasn't really a workers' revolt.
That wasn't a workers' revolt. No.
I thought that was a knobheads revolt.
Nerdy says nah, they'd just fire everyone and hire new, cheaper workers. Disturbingly, probably. That's how the situation we are in.
I mean, sounds sadly correct to me.
That's kind of why we didn't do it at McDonald's, because we knew we would just get fired and replaced.
Yep. Ox says, not in today's world, you can't get enough people to work together for a revolt.
But there have been strikes over unionisation in fast food though, recently.
Yeah, that's true.
It's all right, they'll stop soon. With the employment rate going the way it is, it'll be solved, no problem. Atheist Honor says, I'd strike if I knew my patients would be okay. Yeah, hanging on badly there. Never Again says, can't risk it if it doesn't affect me personally now, Jeff. Not brave enough to get locked up again. Johnny says, I was the youngest US door shop steward in the UK, 19. Great way to get out of work. Union business, bye. The problem is the unions have achieved an awful lot. I can't deny that.
Yeah, they absolutely have.
And some unions are fantastic. I still use some unions. I find it very odd, this merging up and more power. But
I don't like them. I was very against Unite, the Transport and General Workers and Amicus joining to form Unite. Because I think to me it shows defeatism that they're trying to merge themselves to make big unions, rather than actually going out and recruiting people to actually join their unions, which is what they should be doing.
Yeah. Sounds about right. Right. Jenny. And we did Jenny. Manda.
What do we do to Jenny?
No.
You don't know. Fair enough. That's valid.
No, I said no.
Oh, you don't think so? Why not?
Because I think that the governments and stuff and military and everything, or not military, but those in charge would be they're just too powerful, and I just don't think that, I don't think that the workers would be able to withstand.
Vinton?
I think I just think it depends on the job. It might work, it might not, but I don't really know.
I mean, let's be honest. It's not going to happen anytime soon. I think that's
Yeah,
even I say that. But do I think it is impossible? No. Especially if you get any society that becomes unhealthy for whatever reason. So like Lenin said, the conditions arise when the ruling class can't go in the old way, and the working class will refuse to go on in the old way. That's the simplified version of it. Those are the conditions that you need. Now, I don't think there is the conditions in certainly Britain or the United States right now for there to be revolutions, but there would if there is a breakdown in that. You'd be very surprised. If you think that necessarily the military is just going to come in and force everyone back, because if it really gets messed up, a lot of them tend to affect different sides. And people go back and look at the events in the Middle East in 2011.
Yuhan says, I don't think it could be pulled off these days. Nerdy Rodent says, it's really difficult to get kids to clean my chimney nowadays. Badger!
Hello.
What do you think?
What is the exact phrasing of the question?
Oh, fucking hell. In 1381, Wat Tyler led the Peasants Revolt. Do you think it's possible to have an equivalent workers' revolt in a Western country nowadays?
I think it's very unlikely.
Very unlikely.
Because people hate each other. I would have difficulty uniting in revolt with someone who thinks Disney's canon.
So most of the population.
That's glad to see you got your priorities in order there.
So,
did I mention that society is really shallow today?
Yes.
Yes, they are very shallow, Jay, and they're also very lazy.
I think there are too many of these
comfortable.
I think there are too many of these little things that would mean that it wouldn't be possible for people to work together long enough to have a proper job revolt.
See, I'm of the averse in that. I think that if conditions were right economically, and there were some smaller scale private enterprise worker strikes that were put on and that lasted, that it would be conceivable for over time for those worker strikes to join and expand and become quite a nasty issue for corporate America to have to deal with.
I think the biggest problem is the working class in Britain, United States. They've forgotten their own history, and they actually have power. They've absolutely forgotten that lesson.
Absolutely.
So I think we're gonna go with no, but not impossible as an answer.
Well, okay. I mean, could be interesting because let's think that you said the Peasants' Revolt. Yeah. Something that happened a decade or two before that kind of caused the conditions for the Peasants' Revolt. You know what that was? It's a pandemic.
Yes,
a pandemic.
It was a pandemic, but it wasn't a pandemic that mostly affected old people. We shall see. Right, Nerdy says, how many billionaires were there in 1381? I can categorically tell you, in my expert opinion, there were none. I might be wrong about that. There might have been one guy in Africa that was so wealthy he might have counted as a billionaire. I can't remember his name and I can't quite remember his dates, but I think they were around then. But
because of the fact that the Peasants' Revolt effectively caused a massive labour shortage afterwards, kind of meant that those who were left could suddenly were able to charge the wrong way.
We're heading the other way.
Right.
Yeah, we're heading to a point of mass employment availability, or a surplus of employable people. Mass unemployment. which is not necessarily, unless you can get enough people unemployed, which can lead to some sort of revolt. Otherwise, you're screwed. If you enjoyed that, please hit the thumbs up button. If you didn't, hit the thumbs down. If you think you've got a better answer or just want to tell us how wrong we are, leave a comment down below. Subscribe down here for new questions every day, and make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on our live shows. If you click over here, you'll see our latest upload. Over here, for what YouTube thinks you'll love the most. And finally, for a complete playlist of all our currently released questions, click here.